Two seconds.
Mate, give me 2 seconds.
Get stuck in. Cool, we're finally there, guys. How we doing? Welcome to a podcast. I've been threatening to get lots more guests on here, and I'm going to pull my finger out of my arsehole and finally do that. So, there's a guy who I really admire. I think we've just probably been in each other's worlds anyway, but never really just connected. And part of that is my fault because I've just been a bit lazy with this. So, I'm going to welcome to the show Ollie Carson. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, dude. Yeah, we've been in each other's peripherals for a while, but we just haven't really made the formal introduction, have we? Sorry, I asked you a question just as you were taking the sippers on your drink.
I know it's fine. It's my fault. You know, when you start drinking and it's just a habit, every couple of seconds you just start sniffing. You don't tactically think. So, Ollie, let's first introduce you to everybody. I used to introduce people, but I actually think I actually prefer people just introing themselves. Just a couple of minutes, just bullet points of who you are and what you do.
Absolutely, man. So kind of not the woe is me childhood, but definitely like a slightly difficult upbringing, single parent household. My mum raised me, but I had an abusive father up until the age of about 6 or 7. And because of that, my mum, struggled financially and raising her kids by herself and all that kind of stuff. And then kind of life came to a bit of a head when I was in my late teens, 16, 17. And I got in trouble with some of the wrong people, basically, on the estate that I lived in Northwest London. And one thing led to the other. And essentially, I was at a bit of a crossroads. I was either going to get in lots of trouble with these people, or I had to move away and make something of my life, which is where I joined the military. So I joined the British Army at the age of 19. Went on tour sort of at age 25 to Afghan, did 8 months there with the Brigade Reconnaissance Force. Was in mega shape and all the rest of it. Loved my phys, paratrained, PTI, all that stuff, right? Loved beasting myself, was in great nick. And then when I left the military, it was kind of like natural progression for me really to go into personal training. That it just kind of made sense. Just take the skills that I'd built in the military and take it to PT. Built a really successful personal training business, but yourself, when you're one-to-one with clients, you're at capacity of what you can do and you're burning the candle at both ends and all that good stuff. So then opened my own facility and just kind of replaced one problem with another. And then online coaching started becoming a thing. So I started online coaching and that did particularly well. And the kind of next natural progression with that was helping coaches like myself with their businesses and helping them market themselves better and deliver a better service to their clients and things of that nature. And that's kind of where we're at now is running that business. And yeah, I've had a bit of a colorful life along the way. I don't know how much you want to get into that sort of stuff.
Well, we're talking to it. Yeah, we'll go through it because I know there's bits. Let's start at the start. So, I mean, listening to you is almost listening to my journey.
I can see that.
It's I didn't. My original dad obviously wasn't abusive or angry or anything like. He was a great dad, but I lost him at 6. So obviously, I think it's still trauma, isn't it? It's like trauma of death or trauma of not really having a father, like or dealing with that, and then having an emotional bully as a stepfather for like 15 years. It just tells you your shit and clicks you around the back of the ear all of the time. So do you find that plays a big part in your life today still? Do you still feel the effects of that?
Yeah, I think when I'm reflective and I think about the big pivotal decisions that I've made in my life that led me down a path that were, big changes in life, like joining the military, like starting a business, those things. Yeah. I think a lot of it does come off the back of, like you say, trauma or something that's happened that, gives you that niggling feeling in the back of your mind that you're not good enough or, whatever that looks like. But yeah, I 100% agree with that, mate. The being in trouble with the wrong people and joining the military is, that is closely linked.
Yeah, I agree. Like, because I still should go, and I really should go and get some level of counselling. But I'm definitely like I need a lot of reassurance, and I'm quite insecure. I'm very, very vulnerable. Like when I'm on my game, I'm like absolutely on my game. But I always go to the worst case scenario, and I think a lot of that is stemmed from when my dad went away. So my dad went with my mum up to Blackpool to go and sign a contract for a brand new house the next day. You know, we were about to start this brand new life. I was about to start, you know, we was on the South Coast then, so it was quite a long way. About to start this brand new life, and he died the night before we was all meant to go. So my worst case scenario is that my dad walked out and never come back. So when anything happens, so whether it's business or whether it's life or whether it's a relationship, something happens and I go to the worst case scenario straight away. And then I feel insecure. Do you know what I mean? And then I lose clarity and then I become quite overzealous and anxious. And I have to work. And I think there's an element of all the work I've done on myself is that I have to create this fucking wall so thick that it can't get in. And I
Mm,
think a lot of that it is stemming. I really do have to deal with it, but like a lot of it is trying to be able to self-protect myself and self-lead myself so that I don't get caught up in all of that. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot to dive into. It's
yeah.
deep.
Yeah, I resonate with that massively, dude. The low self-esteem, the kind of negative self-chat, all of that stuff is stuff that I struggle with massively. Something that I've consciously done over the last few years is almost like writing down what I want my identity to be, how I want to show up in the world, whether that's for my family or in my business or for my friends or whatever, right? But actually not allowing my subconscious to take control and reverting to type, which for me is like you said, it's like low self-esteem, you're not good enough, you're a fuck up, you're in trouble, you have to do this, you're putting your family in jeopardy or whatever. That is my default setting.
Yeah.
So if I'm not very conscious about, well, actually, no, I'm not that person anymore. How do I want to show up in the world? My default is that, you know, so that's been a game changer for me, mate, is actually getting really clear on how I want to be perceived and how I want to, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what's really interesting? When I get guys to write down their priorities, like you know, when you do the old list of like these are my priorities, but how many are you living them up to? It's like two different worlds.
Mm,
And I often will find that like on the shop window, and what I mean by the shop window is like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of that stuff. You would never look in and go, "Fucking hell, that guy's struggling." Like you'd never go in like, and it's not that I am struggling. Like you know, I'm battling elements of trauma that I've just never dealt with, and I understand that. And you're absolutely right. It's a kind of like this is the blueprint of who I want to be and who I am sometimes behind closed doors when it's
yeah,
just me and Jem, which is my wife. Nobody could ever really understand you. I think so many people would be surprised, like you, that on the forefront you're a strong leader, coach out front, taking people through their journey, but yet people just don't think that you struggle. People just
yeah,
don't, people think you fucking got it made, didn't you? And I'm like, are you mad? Like, absolutely. Why do you think I do this? You know, and actually, when I coach people, we did a coaching session last night. It reinforces a lot of the things that I'm thinking. I only ever coach what I'm reinforcing at the time,
yeah,
and you suddenly go, God, I needed that as well as them.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
It's
mate.
madness.
Yeah, mate. And you mentioned there about your missus and you know who you are behind closed doors versus who you are on the shop window. I mean, you know yourself, and probably most people listening to this, we put our best foot forwards in a public environment. You know, when
Yeah,
there's people that can be looking from the outside in,
yeah,
and your partner often gets unfortunately the worst version of you because that's your that's your place of comfort, and that's
yeah,
something that I've worked on massively. You know, is like consciously thinking, well, actually, if I'm making this huge effort to portray myself and show up in the world for these people as Ollie that you kind of know,
yeah,
I absolutely should be making, if not double the effort for my family, you know, and actually consciously showing up for them. And it's not about not letting your guard down and not being yourself and not being vulnerable. Those things are still important, but it's about, well, actually, is it useful for me to be a bit of a burden for my wife right now? Probably not.
yeah, 100%. There's only so much, like, yeah, I think there is support. There's an element of support, but then this is where I think self-leadership is so important because I think that if we don't, they'll learn to live without us. And that's just like, you know, you can only give so much support before we have to fucking take control ourselves. You have to self-lead yourself out of whatever it is that you're doing, right? And you know, I'm quite open like with a lot of my stuff. I share a lot of the downfalls and a lot of the spirals because I definitely think it's important for people to see reality of
Mm,
people that teach this stuff. Like it's not a given that I live this like great, like, you know, February. has been a bit of a struggle. But it's been a bit like, if it didn't have those traumas, I don't think it would have been as much as a fucking hard as I think it would be for somebody who hasn't gone through it. It's just me overthinking, me
Yeah.
going to that worst case scenario. And I recognize that I've leaned on Gem probably for the last 10 days, and it's like now time for me to, like, I have to get control of this. I have to do this. This is why we get up, right? This is why we train, do jujitsu, do diaries, talk to other people. And I think it's important for guys, and this is men and women. Like, I do, like, this is not just a man thing. This is men and women, because there's time when she has to lean on me, like your wife will need to lean on you, right? And that's where we are at the forefront, at the spearhead.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, completely agree with all of that, mate.
So, like, going through that is only obviously natural. That I think that when you go through what you've done, we almost end up on the wrong doorstep, don't we? We almost, like, we just seem to attract the wrong people. I don't think I ever got into this. I don't think I ever, because when I grew up, I had to help bring up my younger brother, so I never really ended up going out. But there was a couple of times when we used to be down the arcade, but it was a couple of people that I probably shouldn't have been around. So, are you happy to share some of that? Like,
Of
what
course.
what kind of stuff did you get into that you just and did you get into it because you felt something, maybe you belonged to something where you didn't when you were younger?
Yeah. Again, really fascinating, because I didn't know that about you, James, about, helping raise your brother. Exactly the same scenario of me.
Yeah.
My mum had a stroke very young. She had a stroke at about the age of, I think she must have been about 35 or 36 at the time. She was in hospital doing rehab for a really long period. And myself and my younger brother were living with, between aunties, and just wherever we could stay whilst my mum was recovering. And so I played a key role in raising my younger brother as well. So it's very similar in that way. But yeah, so basically what happened, that the long and short of it is that we lived in a really rough estate in northwest London. And I essentially got somewhat groomed by like a local gang of gypsies. And what they used to do is they used to recruit these young kids, and they would have them move drugs around for them, essentially. You'd never know what you were doing, but you'd be dropping things off and picking things up. And then what they would do is, when they've kind of like, had their use, as it were, they would pull a fast one, and they would try and get the families of these young kids to fork up 2 or 3 grand, by basically. So I dropped off a package to a guy that, I was told to meet him at the local shops or whatever. Came back, the guy knocks on my door and he says, "Where's the money?" And I said, "What money?" He said, "The money that your man gave you." And I said, "He didn't give me any money." And he said, "He was supposed to give you 2 grand. I'll speak to you in a bit." And he comes knocking on my door about half an hour later, brings me into he lived across the road from me,
Yeah.
brings me into his back garden, and basically held like a machete to my neck, and said, "If you don't get me 2 grand in the next week, then I'm going to cut your head off." So, that was, that was the cascade of events that led to me even like, for me, it was I felt like I'd put a massive burden on my mum and my brother, because now I'd brought trouble to my doorstep,
Yeah.
And so the decision was kind of made that I needed to get out of Dodge, and that's why I joined the military.
Okay, now that's scary.
Yeah, very scary.
It's scary. Yeah. I think, I never fell into that, but my bro fell into like hard drugs, like just fell off completely. And my mum having to pretty much go up to a drug den and fucking get my son out of here. Right. Like, it's mad, isn't it? It's like, um, I mean, that shows a lot of courage to get out, right? In terms of the military. Um, do you ever think about back then and think about how it's the sliding doors effect? If you had stayed in there, like what could have happened, where you could have been. I mean, it almost must act as a, like, man, a daily gratitude thing that you made that right choice. Do you know what I mean? Getting out, because decision making is very difficult. And how old were you then when that incident happened?
When the incident happened, I would have been about 17.
Fucking hell, that's my boy's age. Like
Yeah, it's
that.
crazy, right? Yeah.
That is insane, and that's scary. Um, so the British military. Did you join the Paras?
No, I didn't. I originally joined as a mechanic, and then I transferred to the lifeguards shortly after, because I was like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was in the lifeguards.
Okay. So what did the military kind of bring you instantly that maybe, how did the military change you?
Fuck, how didn't it change me? I was essentially a young lad without a father figure, with no structure, with no habits, no routine. And you know yourself, like I basically went from zero to hero in all of those areas. So yeah, it was massive for me. Joining the military was probably one of the best things that I ever did. I know a lot of blokes will kind of slag off their time and all the rest of it, but it was frankly the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
So it kind of, yeah, it shaped me as the person that I am today. So I owe an awful lot to the military.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't regret anything I did at all.
How long did you do?
Go on, sorry.
How long did you serve?
About 9 years.
Oh, mate,
Yeah.
I swear to God, our lives are parallel.
Is that you as
Yeah,
well? Was it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 9 years.
I
So
was literally, and actually interestingly, I know I was going to message you this. I was about to go on the sniper's carder as well. Before I left, it was like, if I get my slot on the sniper's carder, I'm
yeah,
staying. If I don't
yeah,
get it on this one, I'm out. And
yeah.
I ended up leaving.
What
So
made you leave?
sorry.
What made you leave?
The catalyst was two things. I was married and quickly divorced. I found out my then wife had an affair while I was away in Canada.
God.
So I came back. We got married. I literally deployed to Canada the next week on exercise. Came back and found out that she was having an affair with someone at work. So out of the pad's house, all of that kind of stuff. And at the same time, an opportunity came up to work with. I don't know if you know of Jamie Alderton, he's an ex-military guy as well.
Yeah.
But he'd opened a gym in Chichester in West Sussex.
I went down to it.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah. So I was one of his first PTs there, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. He put out like a call essentially for blokes to come and work with him, and I just shot my shot, and I stuck in an application. And because I was going through the divorce, it makes me sound like a bit of a welfare case, but because I was going through the divorce, I went to but I went to the regimental corporal major and just said, look, this is my situation. I'm going through the divorce. I've got this opportunity because Grenade had accepted me as a PT. I'd passed all the interviews and they wanted me.
Yeah.
And he said, and normally you'd put in a year's notice when you leave. I don't know if it was like that when you were in.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you're going to tell me you put in a submission to get out early,
Yeah,
exactly what I did.
really. And yeah, but that's what happened. Yeah, they just basically said, look, you've got this opportunity. We're not going to hold you in. So I was out within 2 weeks and I moved down to Chichester.
Mate, that's exactly spitting image as me as well.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's mad. So obviously I was in the Royal Marines and I did my sniper's course. So I was like you. It's uncanny. I was at that point where I did my 3.5 years, and I got my sniper. I passed my sniper course in my first year of training. I then went on to join the sniper training team. And I always wanted to be PTI. I used to see the guys in the white vest. They used to be super fucking handsome, super fucking funny,
Yeah.
just living the dream. And that's always what I wanted to do. And every year you used to get a RAWs, it's like a grading, and you've got to get your B to get your corporals, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, if I did 3.5 years and then I got drafted to be on the team again for another year, and I was like, at the end of that year, if I don't get my B and I can't get in a PT aptitude, I'm probably going to leave. And I had a great career. And then I got it, and then it fucking like the rest is history, becoming that. And then I did my adventure training course, did all my climbing skills, kayaking, and just lived the dream.
Yeah.
But as you know, doing 700-mile round trips in 2 days is just every weekend is grinding and watching kids cry as you leave. It's very difficult. And I got the opportunity, and I wouldn't really call it an opportunity now, but I got a job at the local college teaching sports and public service outdoor education. And I put my chit in June, and I had to my side. I was on him like all the time, and I got out in 6 weeks. And it is normally it's normally a year, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Um,
to prevent blokes from coming off the back of a shit exercise and hating their life, and then just sticking in things left, right, and center. So yeah, so I get it, but yeah, we're very fortunate that we got out when we did, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Do you miss it?
Yeah, I miss elements of it. My life is incredible now.
Yeah.
I can't make any bones about it. Obviously, you go through your moments as a business owner, don't you? Where you question what you're doing, and you like the stress is inconceivable, right?
We'll
But then,
definitely come on to that.
yeah. But then, so is digging a hole and sleeping in a
Yeah.
hole, and so it's
You
like,
know, it's easy to say, I'd fucking love to do that again right now. And it like you or going on a training exercise, I'd love to fucking go on a training exercise for fucking like 8 days or something. But you get there and by day 2, you're like, no, fucking give me so I always say that I don't miss it anymore, but I definitely cherish it.
mm,
Like
like
you,
that.
it created the man that is in front of you today and in front of all of those guys. And if I'd never gone through that, um, I would probably be a client of someone that is doing what I'm doing now. Do you
Yes.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But it gave me direction and everything, which is why I crashed and burned so hard when I left. How did you transition out? How did that go for you?
Well, I was quite lucky. I have this conversation with guys all the time because I work with a lot of ex-military guys as well. And I think I was fortunate in that when I left, it was very much I was swept along with the current, and everything was happening quite quickly for me.
Yeah.
In this new gym, and there was lots of hype around it with Jamie, and and then my PT business was growing, and then I was opening my own facility, and so like I didn't really get that moment of like doubt or second guessing myself or missing it. Whereas I think when a lot of guys leave, especially if they're like para trained or they're Royal Marines or whatever, you carry a certain identity, and it can feel like if you go into something, dare I say, ordinary. Not that there's anything wrong with
That's
ordinary.
exactly what we did. Yeah, it's all
Yeah,
right.
but if you're putting on your green lid every day and you've got a dagger on your arm,
Yeah.
and then you're now, I don't want to like discredit anything, but if you're driving a lorry or whatever, right, you lose that sense of pride and identity, don't you?
Yeah.
You know,
Even as a teacher, mate, you're absolutely right. Like it doesn't. It's like when you're like, I've even got my green lid here. Look, it's always
yeah,
there.
mine's just below there or up there on the shelf.
I love
Yeah, just up there.
Nice. And so I always look at this, right? And to many, many people, this is just like a green lid with a badge. Whereas this is something that took 8 months to earn.
Mm,
But you don't just earn it by showing up. You have to you go through unbelievable shit. And
yeah,
you go through so many different emotions when you wear this, like going to Afghan, like you don't know if you're gonna come back. Like it's like having another kid. And that's the way that I always look at it. And I always think to myself, like, you can't explain that. You don't get that in an everyday job.
no,
When I went to the college, the first thing I noticed is that everybody was just in for it for themselves, right?
yeah,
Whereas if we were in the military together, you fucking make sure your oppo's taken care, like always.
yeah,
If you don't, you get your jack, right? And you don't fit in. And jack means kind of like you're just selfish. And it's always about who's in the troop, who needs support, who needs picking up, who needs a fucking shoe-in, like in terms of some accountability. But it's that unwavering purpose. Like
yes,
it's unbelievable clarity about direction, right? In the military, I was always going to be a 22-year man,
yeah,
but I didn't expect to fuck up my marriage, like I did. So things change and you evolve the mission, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I think that's where so many lads come out. No one gives a fuck what you did. And
no,
that's the truth though, isn't it? No one literally gives a fuck whether you went to war, whether you've got medals. It's like
mm,
fit into the system, away we go.
yeah. Someone that you should absolutely speak to if you haven't already, James, is James Elliott,
Let me write his name.
ex-para guy.
Yeah.
He's now a psychotherapist on Harley Street, incredibly successful. He's got his own best-selling book as well.
Yeah.
Super smart dude. I had him in to speak at one of my client events recently.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I saw him speak about recently, which is kind of akin to what we were just chatting about there, is this idea that military guys, especially guys if you're wearing a maroon lid or a green lid or whatever,
Yeah.
is whilst you're in, start building your identity outside of kit. Who is it that you are outside of kit whilst you're in, and actually put some time and effort into that so that you are best prepared to make that transition when you leave. Because it is tough for guys. It is tough.
It's like the Superman Clark Kent role.
Yeah.
That's literally what it is. Do you know what I mean? That's how I always used to look at it. It's like, you know, in this film Superman, Clark's it's fucking hard for him to hide his identity, right? It's really fucking difficult.
Mm,
Um, and so the way that you conduct yourself in the military is a certain way.
yeah,
You can get away with that in the office in a college staff room, right? So
yeah,
again, you're almost being restrained in terms of your identity and what you stand for, which is
mm,
why I love entrepreneurship because you can do whatever the fuck you want to be and you can be whoever you want to
yes,
be.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely.
All right, so you joined Jamie, like you know, I've been down to one of his seminars before and used to go down and have a couple of dips with him and stuff as well. So
Yeah.
uh what was the progress from there to I guess breaking away from them and kind of doing your own thing? Did you kind of just feel like it was time?
Yeah, it's just a natural progression, you know. Jay was taking the gym one way, and myself and two others wanted to go in a slightly different direction, and everything was on good terms and amicable. But we essentially ended up kind of opening up our own facility from there. So that was like the next step in the
Yeah.
in the business journey, as it were, was just opening our own place. Um, but that was kind of short lived. You know, I had that for maybe 2 years or so, and then moved online. So that's kind of where it all started happening for me, is with the online coaching side of things. You know,
What didn't you like about the or maybe you liked but you just didn't want to do? So did you have a bricks and mortar place or was it just
yeah,
literally boot camps and stuff?
yeah, bricks and mortar. So it was basically just one of these industrial units with like a mezzanine floor, and we spent a good amount of money on the kit. I think we must have put 16 grand worth of kit in there.
Yeah.
So it was like a private training facility.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, it could have been exactly the same as us training clients out of Jay's gym, really. And that was one of the realizations that we had, actually. Is like, you know, all the aspirations that we had for this place, you know, we could have just been doing this out of Grenade Fit. You know, it didn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
But fortunately for me, I was building a bit of a reputation online for getting clients great results, and so I was getting interest there, and that again was the natural progression for me, was to move online.
And did you find, so I found that when we went from the boot camps to online, you had to work twice as hard to, maybe you didn't, but I certainly was like, this is not like your local boot camp where you put some ads out and you can pick up 30 people on a program. You had to work really hard because I guess there's a bigger audience and you really have to try and stand out within the audience, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it comes with its own challenges, but I mean, probably like you, mate, I I love the coaching aspect of what I do now, and I've always loved it. I love getting the most out of people.
Yeah.
Always have. I love having difficult conversations with people and challenging them, and I love that element. But I then also love the entrepreneurship of, okay, how am I going to do the marketing? How am I going to launch this? How can I make the brand look a certain way and feel a certain way? What's my messaging? I love that shit. You know,
Yeah.
I'll read books and listen to podcasts and just really push myself in those areas. So I embrace those challenges. You know, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, nice. And it takes, do you think it's the military? So when I look at entrepreneurship, it is like it's like a minefield. It's just a big battle. And I often think about one of the things that I think we need as entrepreneurs. I think more than ever is the resilience side, right? It's the
Mm,
ability, and this is where our brand's built up. It's like having that mission, if you like. You know,
yeah,
what is the mission? And I really feel like if I looked at one trait that really kept me in the game over the years, it's resilience. It's that willingness to keep walking into bullets and like fucking dodging them, getting hit, but then getting back up and going again.
yeah.
You know, when it comes to that transition for you or just through the process of all your businesses, is that something that you can align to or you know, in that respect?
There's one quote that I always fall back on in times of challenge, and it's Winston Churchill, and it is, success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to carry on.
Yeah,
And
nice.
that for me, and like, you know, in anything in life, in relationships, in business in particular, there are always those patches, those Jesus take the wheel moments where you're like, fucking, what am I doing here, you know? But the key isn't to have it all figured out all the time, is it? You know this. It's to just keep showing up. Can I do this for one more day?
Yeah.
Can I get 1% better today? And I think if you have that mentality, we're playing an infinite game with business. You know, the second you start playing finite games where it's like it needs to be right and it needs to be right now, I think that's where guys trip themselves up.
Then you're fucked.
Yeah.
You just fucking and it becomes so compressed in your mind. It's like one thing I've learned about running a business is that you've never made it.
No. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're like, we're there. No, we're not. You're like, back to the drawing board. And you've got to have something about you, haven't you, to do that?
Yes.
Because there's a couple of things that I have learned over the years as well. One of them is I remember once when I just unfollowed fucking everyone, and
Yeah.
this element of comparison, like you do it to everyone, and like naturally compare yourself. Like when I started watching you recently again, I was like comparing me to you. I'd watch other people that we've spoken about, and I would compare. Like Jamie Alderton was the first guy that I ever like when I was starting to go online. He's the guy I
Yes.
just watched his Snapchats, and then he come
Yeah.
over to Instagram, and then I reached out to him, and he was really nice and kind, and then he invited me down and we hung out for a bit, and it was just like, but I was always trying to be the best version of Jamie Alderton or the best
Yeah.
version of James Smith or the best version of Alex Hormozy, and I was losing my identity through that. I was going, who's the best version of James Boardman? Like, what is his voice? What does he stand for? And again, it's almost like when you press the button, you automatically go back to that loss of identity, like the blueprint. Who do I need to be? What is
Yeah.
my voice? What is my message?
Yeah.
And, many of the years, I remember when I first followed Gary Vaynerchuk, my missus was watching a video of mine. She went, "You sound like that, Gary." And I went, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
do you know what I mean? And that's where I think I've stopped. There's a filter. You have to be strong to
Yeah.
go, "That's a great piece of content. I love what they're doing."
Yeah.
But do it in your own way and then maybe in a different version.
100%. This is where I've created this thing. I get all my clients to do it now as well. I call it the identity chamber. It
Yeah.
sounds like the most woo-woo exercise ever. And as I say this, I'll probably lose half your listeners. So apologies. And if this is you checking out, then
Hey,
I
they've
get it.
been fucking putting up with me all this
Yeah.
years. Sure, they love
But honestly, I spent time on it. It took me a good couple of hours to do it. And I essentially just wrote down, it sounds super fucking weird, right? But I've written down this script, and it's like I am this type of person. I am an operator. I show up for my family in this way. My kids are inspired by the way that I act. I lead by example, blah, 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 all of these different things.
Yeah.
And every morning I sit down and I read it to myself. It takes me 5 minutes whilst listening to some dramatic music. Right. So stay with me, right? Boom, boom. It's proper woo-woo stuff. But what I found is that is essentially who I want to be and how I want to show up in the world. And if I'm not very conscious about those things, exactly as you said, you revert to just look, if you only ever looked at paintings of Picasso's, and then you've never seen another painting in your life, and then someone asked you to do a painting, it would fucking come out looking like Picasso's. Right. Yeah. You're just taking all of these inputs and it's feeding into your subconscious all the time. And you're not being intentional about how you want to show up. So that for me, the identity chamber is a way of being intentional about how I show up. Yeah. And it's a game changer. I love it. So hopefully I haven't lost, say, 50% of it.
Right. So what you're talking about is what we did. So you ultimately come the byproduct of your narrative.
Yes.
So if you wake up and go, I'm a fucking failure. If you wake up and go, I'm shit at this, that's all you're going to think. And yet part of the mission builder, we haven't got one here, but part of the mission builder that I designed for the guys to follow over the 90 days, it's all about what's your mission? How do you feel? Like recognize. Stop fucking feeling sorry for yourself. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's really about creating a mission. That's what you're doing. You're going, who do I need to be to create this mission that I'm building right now? Who do I need to be? What do I need to do? Who is this for? And you have to connect with that. And I always talk about connection. So if you think about marriages that don't work, the two things that I think we need to make a relationship work is communication and understanding. But what we don't think about is I need communication and understanding with myself. There is you, and then there is the inner version of you. Like, and you have a conversation. We all have this conversation, right? But like, oh, is that good enough? Did I think I do all right? Or you're having that conversation with yourself. There's always two versions of you in one body. There's your brain and your emotions, and you've got to make sure they are connected to who you want to be, where you're going to go, and what you're going to achieve, right? Otherwise, otherwise we're just lost. You're just in this little cycle of chaos. And you're like, who the fuck am I? What am I doing? And this is what I said to my guys last night. You should be able to explain your mission in 30 seconds. You should be able to turn around and go bang. So ours is to help 1 million men build a life mission. You know, eventually it might be men and women. So it's going to be like, I'm going to get as close before I die, because I'm never going to stop working. I'm going to get as close to 1 million people, helping them build a life mission. So we're like, fucking, let's go. So if the one tiny little problem that happens in your business, or something gets distracted, or trying to sort out that curveball before we met, it's like, that's such a fucking tiny little part of this huge journey, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you go, oh, so if I got distracted by that curveball and it fucking triggered me, I'm like, fucking, I've got no chance. I've still got another 20, 30 years worth of work in yet. So it's, is it Layla Hormozi has this great quote, and this is my go-to this year. It's like, fuck your emotions, stick to the plan.
Love that.
Fuck your emotions, stick to the plan. And I was like, in our context, it's stick to the mission. It's like, our emotions fucking dictate everything.
Yes.
Everything. So I like what you do there in terms of reading it out, putting the music on, because you just draw it. It's not non-emotional. This is the plan. This is the mission. I've been showing up most of February unmotivated, but still doing what I need to do.
Yeah.
No one walks around going, yeah, it's fucking hell. Like, fucking love this shit. Like, the wins come in the highlight reels, right?
Yes.
You know, when I watched your great video of your training day for your clients, that's a fucking big win. That's like, fucking smash that. And it looked great. It looked brilliant. But then the next day, you know, it's not the same. It's not the next, you know, the following week. It's not like, oh, it's great. It's just moments, highlights.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, I love that. I'm the same as well, by the way. I have literally my kind of the business's core values. It's on a board there. I'm looking at it now. And it's like, that's your North Star, you know, when shit starts hitting the fan, etc. Like, and things change, right? Things are always changing, and things are growing and developing, and strategies that you're using for this are changing. But it's like, if you can stay true to the core values or the North Star, then you can't go too far wrong, you know. And so I like this idea of just having, like, as you call it, a blueprint. You know, this is what we revert to.
Yeah, 100%. So a quick question on all of this. What do you think is one thing you could be doing that would help you get to that next level that maybe you're not?
Good question, man. It's a hard pressing question.
I look at you and I think to myself, like, already high performer, high achiever, but what will you not do? Because I'm always challenging myself with that question. So like, I'm always thinking to myself, what should I be doing that I'm not, that to get me to that next level? And I think it just opens this envelope of, like, how do we, and it's not monumental changes, right? It's like somebody losing weight. Somebody has lost a lot of weight, then has to work really hard to lose the next pound. So it's like, focus on the next pound, focus on the next pound. But sometimes to lose that next pound, you might have to do a lot of work. And that's how I think about personal development. At the start, we grow really fast, but then we have to work really hard to get to the next level, to get that to the next, and it might take longer. And I always think to myself, when I work with, you know, in our mastermind, we've got guys that are 9, 8, 7-figure business owners. And I'm like, what's one thing you're not doing that you know you should be that would get you to next level? And they're like, stumped.
Yeah, well, I'm stumped, if I'm completely honest with you. Like, I think that's something that I will probably have to actually think about, because I don't want to pull something out of my ass. But
no, I know. And that's the right thing.
It's a great question. It's a great question.
Yeah. I got that off one of my mentors, and I was like, yeah, fuck, you know. And I think a lot of it comes in consistency. So one of the videos I really loved watching that you did, really just, God, I really resonated with it, was the decision to move to Dubai, realizing that life wasn't for you, and then kind of resetting maybe. Are you happy talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So 2023 for me was like a really weird year, because, like, on the face of it, as you spoke about earlier, like on the, you know, the shop window, on the face of it, I'd kind of like ticked a lot of the boxes that I wanted to tick, and was achieving a lot of seeming success, you know, The business was doing like sort of $80,000 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
I had 6 or 7 team members. I just moved the family to Dubai. You know, we're flying out business class, all of this material shit, you know, all of the normal shit that you think you need to do. And the advice that I was taking, and through no fault of their own, by the way, like not relinquishing blame or responsibility at all. Everyone gets to make their own decisions. But the advice that I was taking from mentors in my corner and coaches was that, okay, you need to ride the wave. You need to scale. You need to do more of this, more of that, more of this. And I had this, it was honestly, James, one moment, because my Mrs. Cat was pregnant in Dubai and she was stuck in the apartment because it was about 40 degrees outside, ridiculously hot. She's thousands of miles away from her support network in, you know, in the UK.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even spend time with her to just be with her because I was doing sales calls. I was managing the team. I was putting fires out. I was doing all this stuff. So I built this big fucking thing. And it took away from me the one thing that I valued most. And I had that real moment where I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? You know? Yeah. And so now everything that I do moving forwards is unbelievably intentional. Like I probably limit myself way more than I should. I probably won't make the money that I maybe could make, but I'm not gonna, it's the Mexican fisherman parable of like, have you heard that parable? The Mexican fisherman?
No.
I'll probably butcher it, but I'll try and explain it as best I can. So there's a small fishing town in Mexico, and a guy sat there and he does a bit of fishing each day, catches a couple of fish, and he goes home, he plays a guitar with his family, drinks a beer, has a laugh, and then repeats it every single day. And this out-of-town American comes in and notices what's happening. You heard this one?
Yeah, keep going though for the people that haven't. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So the out-of-town American comes along, sees what's happening, and goes, "Mate, can I offer you a suggestion?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "You should take the profits from these fish, and you should hire one of your friends to help you." And he said, "Well, why would I do that?" He said, "Well, because then you could get more fish, and then you could take the profits from that, and you could get another boat, and then hire someone in the village, and they could help you, and you can get more fish." And he said, "Okay, well, why would I do that?" And he said, "Well, eventually, if you keep repeating that for many, many years, and you keep working hard, you can have a fleet of boats, and you can have all of these people fishing for you, and you can retire, and you can drink beers, play the guitar with your family, and sit around the fire." He said, "But I do that already." So it's this like, what are the things that you actually want? What are the things that you actually value? And a lot of the time you can have them right now if you just pay close enough attention.
Yeah. It's so good. And when I watched your video, you know, I've got caught up into that. I just want the fucking 7-figure business. Let's fucking go. Guns blazing, 50 cows ready to go, right? And the thing that and it's so important, you have to understand what the key fundamentals of what everything you're doing for, you know. And the thing that I come to learn, and we just spoke about it, I think just before we went on air, and the key value for my top 1% guys, especially them. And I say it's for all of the guys that I work with, but especially them because they're very business driven, is that success starts at home. Now, I often look at these two scenarios, right? You can live in the nice big house. You've got all the nice swimming pool. You've got all the nice cars, and you've got everything that you ever kind of wanted, but you live alone. Or you can live in the bedsit with little money, enough to get through, but you see your family every single day. And the thing is that through the pursuit of success, your family learn to live without you if you're not there. And it just happens one day that the wife will turn around and go, "I don't love you anymore. I'm not into this anymore." And then to you, it's a shock. You're like, "I've been doing this all for you." And you're like,
"No, you haven't."
No, you haven't. And the kids are like, don't give a fuck how much you earn. They don't care what you do. Like when I look at my 3-year-old and she's coming up and I've got a really, really fucking good relationship with her, man, she's so connected to me. Probably more than any of my 4 kids, you know, really connected. And I was talking to Jemima about it and she said, that's probably because you value that time with her more than you've done in the past. And not because you're a bad person, just because you didn't know.
Yeah.
And for me, everything starts at home. And when you start hunting that money and that success, I think what's really important is that you have to understand what's the cost of that success, which is what you did. You understood just in time, I imagine, to save, you know, maybe not save the relationship, but reconnect, reevaluate what's important. And this is the thing that people are they just go blind, hungry on success. And this is where that comparison comes in, right? We see the Jamie Aldertons, the James Smiths, especially in your industry, the
Yep.
Alex Hormozis. If you look at Alex Hormozy, how many kids has he got?
None.
He's got like he's got his fucking hot wife, he's got him, and that's all they do that is their life.
Yep.
So I fell foul of this when I first found Alex Hormozy. When yeah, we're gonna work fucking 26 hours a day. Fuck it, I'm in. And then again, oh, like and then the wife will pick me up. And we've got a strict pact that she picks me up every time I come off that line, that success starts timeline. She's like, rein it in, and that's what she does. And you need that. That's a mentor. Jem's a mentor to me,
Yep.
as well as my mentor as well. And it was so good to listen to that video that you did where you recognized it, because too many egos won't. And that will be a kid growing up in a separate family. Like, do you know what I mean? That's a wife that has to go and find somebody else. That's a kid that has to have a split home. And for me, when I think about the mission, it's about making sure that I didn't have people don't have to do what I did. I lost my dad from an external factor, right? But for many of these dads who are successful business owners and mums, I should say, right? Because I know I'm friends with a lot of female entrepreneurs, and they are in control of whether they grow up with their kids or not. They're in control of whether they make that marriage or not, right? And if you think that bouts of money and success is going to bring that any more happiness, it's not. It will bring you more options.
Yes.
But ultimately, as long as you, and this is how we think, if you have a roof above your head and you have that connection and love, don't you? Any father, the most fulfilled when you're around your kids and they want to be around you. If you're walking through the front door and they don't even notice you, that is fucking telling you something. Or if you walk through the front door and they're like, Daddy, and they fucking bulldoze into you, you're doing it right.
Yep.
Do you know?
100%. Yep. Couldn't
And
agree more.
I love that you just fucking ditch that lifestyle. And because I think that shows real character. Like that's like, I'm doing this wrong. Because it's easy to stay there, right? $80,000, fucking great money. And actually, Gary Vaynerchuk says this really well. You could be 27th in Facebook company or Google. Maybe you earn 50K less a year, but you live a much happier life. This is what I say to a lot of men that want promotions. It's like, do you want promotions?
At the cost of what? Yeah.
At what? Where's that cost coming? Like stress, the fact, like the stop taking care of yourself. Because the minute you don't connect, that is the minute that your wife starts to like learn to live without you.
Yeah. And check out.
Just check out. And it's not because she's a bad person. What do guys expect, right? Oh, I provide her with this and that, but she doesn't care. Some do, gold diggers do, right? But like in the normal world, family life, they want a husband that nurtures them, that asks them how they're doing, that is not fucking stressed out, is not fucking burnt out and worried, you know?
Yeah.
So like, did you just literally pack up and leave and come back home?
Essentially. Yeah, essentially.
Fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah, well, I mean, we went out there on like a trial basis. So it was like, okay, let's go and try this. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
And the decision was made, by me at that point. It was like, no, this isn't it, and everything changed from that point. Like the way that I structured the business, like everything was working backwards and downstream from what I wanted my day to day and week to week to look like for me and my family from that point moving forwards, So yeah, potentially limiting myself somewhat, but in what area? In an area that doesn't really matter that fucking much to me,
Yeah. But you're happy now though, right? Like you love your job.
Dude, I love what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. And part of the greatest thing with it as well is that I'm now able to kind of pass this on to the guys that I work with, the guys and girls that I work with, is like, because I've been to that place authentically, I can speak with credibility in that area and show them, look, maybe you think this is the way, but I assure you it isn't the way. And so now the people that I work with, they have similar values to me, right? Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah.
And so they're all on the same mission and path of like, let's build an intentional business where at the forefront of what we're doing, it's centered around freedom, it's centered around fun, and it's centered around family. Those are the things that we're working towards.
100%. Have you ever heard of a guy called Craig Ballantyne?
Yeah, the name rings a bell, but it's not the gym owner, is it? Or
I don't know if he did.
chain of gyms?
He did. He did.
Valentine Gyms?
Oh no, no, no,
No.
no. He's over in America. He's Canadian, I think. You must. Do you know Bedros Keuilian?
Yeah.
So I think he's like had ties with him. Anyway, when I first started back in 2012, he was very much on the time management scale. I learned a lot of stuff from him, and he come up with this incredible phrase, if you like, about how to live your life, and it was base your business around your life, not your life around your business. And I even wrote it back this morning. We build things. If we become a prisoner in our own business, we've done it wrong. And it doesn't matter how much money you've got. You know. And I think there's so much to be said on that. I mean, I could talk about it for fucking hours because
Yeah.
it could save people's marriages and lives and fucking life. People are burning themselves into the ground.
Yeah.
Um,
Similar sort of sentiment as that. And one that I
yeah,
use all the time is, don't get so busy building a business you forget to build your life. It's the same thing, same message, but I use it all the time with my guys now.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And it's being that asset. You've got to be the asset to your own life, right? It's like any asset, you've got to take care of it. Otherwise, you can't prolong everything else. It's so important. So, do you do anything like to help you detach? Do you like jujitsu or gym or running or golf or anything like that?
Yeah. So I train jujitsu. I just started training a little bit less since I got my blue belt, which is pretty typical. I still train sort of like maybe 4 or 6 hours a week, which is a lot.
How old are you?
I'm 35 now.
Nice.
Yeah, 35.
It's
So
that blue belt mentality, innit? When you get it, you're like, oh, fuck it.
yeah, I want to get fucking jacked again now, get back in the gym.
Okay, I love it. I literally,
Yeah, it's great. It's great for this, as you said, for disconnecting. There's nothing like it, is there? Because you can't think about anything else for those hour and a
yeah,
half or 2 hours that you're training or whatever.
yeah. And you get humbled, don't you? Like, I think ego is a big flaw for men.
Mm.
Um, and you can't. I nearly broke my elbow the other week because it's the first time I've had a bit of ego in a long time. But my boy come and train with us, and one of the kids caught, and I bet this kid come out of fucking nowhere, 18, and he fucking armbarred me, and I didn't let go, and it's like, and I heard it crack, and I went, oh my God, and I was like, you cannot afford to have a
No,
fucking ego, right?
you can't.
Do you compete?
I do. Yeah, I've got lots and lots of medals from winning competitions. I'm all right, man. I'm all right at jits. I think I picked it up pretty quickly. I think like just a
Military?
combination, yeah, athleticism, bit of a mindset thing. I'm a good training partner, by the way. I'm not like smashing folk in the gym, but yeah, I think when I go to competition and stuff, yeah, I've been doing well, man. I've been collecting a lot of gold.
How
So
many wins have you got?
on smooth comp, I'm probably at about 26 wins or something like that.
Mate, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, competed quite a lot over the white belt and then the beginning
Yeah.
of blue belt. So
Mate, those guys, you guys that do it from white belt are a fucking handful. Like you can tell, like the guys who get in it early. So
yeah,
I didn't get into it early. I only did. I've done 2 comps as a white belt,
mm,
done 4 as a blue belt, and now I'm yet to compete as a purple belt.
yeah,
But I know that I should be doing it. I just fucking it's honking feeling of
yeah,
let's get it like it's horrible. And do you know what I hate most is that you have to wait around the whole fucking day. You might only
yeah.
be
It's shit.
5 minutes.
Yeah, it's shit. I mean, the last match I had was against this big Bulgarian dude, and he had a videographer with him, mate. So as soon as you see the videographer, you're like, right, I'm about to become this geezer's highlight reel, which I did because he put a rear naked choke across my chin, and it was fucking horrendous. So
Oh, mate.
yeah, but that's the beauty of it. Like you say, it's humbling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if you think you're the shit walking around, or you've got the business and you've got this and that, and then a 16-year-old rips your heel off and you're nothing again.
I love it. Right. So what's the future for you, mate? Like where, what this is remember the mission. What's your mission over the next 10 years?
My mission is to help people who want to run a business like I do
Yeah.
have the life that I think they should, not that I think they should have, but I know they can have. You know, it's about taking the lessons and the learnings that I've had over the years of running online business, and making people see that there's another way of doing things. More isn't always more. That's kind of the mission for me at the minute, you know.
Okay. So is your primary role of your programs and stuff to help them make more money or get more structured, or all of it?
It's all of it. You know, yes, there is a money making element. I'm helping them with their marketing. I'm helping them with sales. I'm helping them with delivery. But at the core of all of that, the essence of the program is, like I say, it's to be intentional about what you're building and not just aimlessly adding shit in an attempt to make more money. Start with the end in mind. Reverse engineer what your perfect week, we call it the dream week. Reverse engineer what your dream week looks like and build something that is conducive to having that, you know.
What would you say your one big thing is this year that you're going to achieve? That's on the bucket list, or that's on the big mission list.
Superficial goals, or just
like what, like those, like, so for me, for example, it was the 50 miler, like, and to travel and do a road trip around Canada. So like for you, like, what is that, you know, one or two of your big things that you like, milestones you want to hit?
Well, so I write my goals down twice a day, every day in my little notebook. Again, it's about like getting the subconscious just defaulting towards the things that I want to achieve. One of them's about to be ticked off, which is moving the family to the New Forest.
Oh yes.
So that's happening in the next couple of weeks. I have got some other ones that are a little bit more personal, so I'm going to keep them in my notebook. So I'll give you the New Forest one.
Nice, mate. It's been great having you on. I think it's uncanny how alike we are in terms of backgrounds and getting to that point, right? And even to the point where we run almost similar things going on. If I was to finish off, if you could give any advice to kind of anyone listening that would make their life better based on your own experiences, what would be that standout thing? Because not all of our listeners are business owners as well.
No.
More of a, you know, a piece of advice or something that you've learned that you think, man, I want them to go away with that.
I would say read a book, and I'll give the book recommendation. It's here on my desk. I'll grab it. Read this book, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And just do the inner work. I think the inner work, the 6 inches between your two ears, when you get that shit right, kind of everything else from there is in the right direction. Everything
is a state of mind. Like you think. And I learned that in the military there, you know. I should relaunch my book, to be fair. But that, fucking hell, I had to read it twice because I wasn't intelligent enough to take it in the first time. So what the fuck is this? But that book is like definitely game changing. Mate, it's great to have you on. We'll catch up when we go offline. But just want to say thanks, guys. If you're listening, please let us know what you think of the podcast. I'll put some details in of if anyone wants to reach out to you, like your email address or socials and stuff, you can send them to me. But apart from that, appreciate you coming on, dude. And here's the next one.
Cheers. Thanks, James.